We are live. All right. It is your co-host, J Money. That is
Wow.
spelled
We're going with J Money now, huh?
J-O $H. The O and the H are silent. And my lovely star, Adele. So, the question for the day is, Christians, why do you still believe?
I don't have you in my audio.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to just like kind of come through the microphone when you hear me like that. But I think that the crew out there can hear us. Confirm in the chat if anyone's out there or if anyone wants to be out there. But we are interested in understanding why Christians still believe in this thing that we call Christianity. Oh, I'm going to pause that and mute that. Sorry, getting my own feedback here. So it's my understanding that like it's been debunked.
What, Christianity?
Yeah. Is that true or what? Like, what's the status there?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I believe it's true.
You believe that Christianity is true?
I believe it's true that it's been debunked.
Okay.
The question was,
whoa, what the heck?
I believe Christianity has been debunked.
Okay.
I think it's been done multiple times in multiple ways.
So why do you think that people actually still believe in this thing?
I mean, I don't know. This feels silly.
Well, we don't need to have that conversation then. All right then. I guess let's go into something else. What No, I mean, I guess I can say why I think it's true. I think people believe it. I think people believe it because everyone around them believes it. So therefore, they think that it must be true because so many people say it's true. I think it's how they were raised.
To question what they're used to.
Yeah, I agree with that too, actually. Why would they be? They're used to it because that's how they were raised.
Right. Echo chamber.
Interesting.
That's why there's literally a Bible Belt.
I think it's also interesting that like there's been a couple of times I think in history where it could have just fallen on its face. Like take like when Jesus died, for example. Like there were other Jewish messiahs, so to speak, because technically a messiah was just a king, but like people who were going to take on the new like Daniel, Ezekiel role where they were going to like lead the nation into its new like eternal format. And they died, but their followers didn't claim that that particular leader like resurrected. Therefore, it just kind of like went by the wayside.
Right. Yeah, the resurrection is kind of key.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just a guy who said some stuff and then you died.
Could you imagine? So you're like.
Do you have our cue in case anyone does come up?
Yeah, it's right here. Actually, it's on this screen over here.
Thank you.
So let's say, for example, you are a fisherman in like the Jerusalem area or Galilee or Nazareth, and you see this charismatic person come that says, get rid of your family, leave your job and follow me. And you do that. You literally like leave your job, follow, and then you follow this person for like 3 years, and you're convinced because of their charismatic nature and their message that they are telling the truth, that they're going to be the king of this new, like, I don't even know that it was cosmic. I think it was probably just localized, but like the king of Israel or whatever. And then all of a sudden they ride into Jerusalem everybody in the town's like, whoa, this new Messiah is here. And this is actually really interesting because I think that that's probably historically accurate. I think that people probably did like throw down the palm leaves. Yay, you're the new king, you're the new Messiah. I mean, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the Passover for a reason. Like he did it because he knew that like this is when the like how do you say this, like revolutionary time would have been. So so the Passover is celebrating when the Israelites left Egypt and overthrew Pharaoh and overthrew like the whole like regime that was controlling them. So Jesus rode in during this time when everyone was like at a fever pitch, like we're gonna overthrow the man, right? And I think that was super intentional. So I think that it was a major bummer for the people following Jesus that like then after he rode in and he was going to overthrow the regime, that like then he got killed. I don't think he saw that coming. I think that was written into the narrative later. I could be wrong.
I don't know though, because saying the kinds of things he was saying come with a risk.
So the question is, what was he really saying?
That's a good point.
Also, if there
There's
are
different
any Christians listening, we're very interested in your opinion because we're trying to understand like why people still believe this. But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think there are different stories about what he even said around him. Some of them that he didn't know was going to happen, some that it was in his plan that it was going to happen. I could be wrong, but
No, I think you're right. I think that is like we can never really know like what actually he said, I think. Unless there are Christians on here that can explain that, but I feel like he was talking about like in the book of Daniel like the son of man is coming. The son of man just meant like a human, and but the son of man was like super powerful and was going to like wipe everyone out and start like a new Jerusalem. I just think it's interesting because when that didn't happen, like what did these followers of Jesus have to do? They basically either had to admit that they were completely
right.
wrong.
That's the thing too, and I think that's part of your original question where you're like, why do people still believe? Because if you stop, then you have to admit that everything up to this point, you struggled with this when you deconstructed. All of this didn't actually mean anything. Or I made
Right.
these decisions that changed my family's life and the trajectory of my career, or whatever you might have done in the name of the religion, whether it was back then when you like sold all your possessions because Jesus was coming back, or whether it's today when your whole family has gone to church and believed forever. And if you stop, you not only have to admit that you believed in something you no longer think is true, but then you also have the fear of losing all of that community. So it's like a little bit of a shameful thing.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting also is that even today, from like a like super like generic reference, like you've got people who are like, oh no, I saw Elvis, you know what I mean? Or oh, Tupac's not dead.
I was just gonna say.
So Adele knows I was a believer in the Tupac's not dead theory for quite some time. Um, Still question it a little bit. I still think that they're
Okay, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't actually die. They switched out the bodies in the jail.
okay, okay. So this isn't like outside of the realm of possibility where people that are a big fan of somebody or something like just like comes up it's hard to let go of the fact that maybe they're actually dead and that all it takes is one person to come and say, dude, I saw him. He was there, like right before my very eyes. Oh, and the tomb's empty. Now, I have some crazy thoughts about the tomb being empty thing. By the way, if there are any Christians that are online that want to join, feel free to join. Also, if there are any non Christians that would like to come up and have this conversation, feel free to also join. Christians will take precedent, so we will drop a person down so that we're not piling on a Christian. We want this to be a safe space. But we are genuinely interested,
Generally, also in general.
we are interested in general why Christians still believe this thing that has clearly been proven wrong many different ways.
At least I
Why?
think it's clear.
Oh, yeah, I'm interested in some opinions here. Alternating opinions, alternatively. Anyways, so the empty tomb.
I've just read so much about the empty tomb that I don't even know if I could pair out my thoughts versus like Dan McClellan and I don't know,
Yeah.
so many people like, oh well, he was only put there because the Passover was coming and they had to take him down, but then they moved him because it wasn't his permanent tomb. So of
Yes.
course his body was gonna be gone.
Yes. So that I don't know if he started this one, but that is like the James Tabor
Mm,
thought, that the one that I
I
read
have heard
anyways,
him talk about that.
where he's like, it was the Passover, they had to like bury him hastily. That's also in the Gospels. They had to bury Jesus hastily. So they found the closest tomb that was empty. Happened to be one that was like not being used by the family. And so they put him in this tomb. And there's something about uh like they're gonna move, they had to move him then to the permanent tomb. So it could have happened where like Mary and clan show up to the tomb and it's empty. Well, dude, they were gonna move him anyway because it says right in the text that like they hastily put him in the tomb, and Joseph of
Which text says
Arimathea.
that?
I would have to actually look that up to fact check myself, but so which of the Gospels state the tomb was a temporary or hastily buried area? So yeah, so they put him in this tomb. John frames it as like logistically necessary because of the approaching Sabbath. So it's like a John thing, which is interesting because John is like the text that like
Mm,
usually clarifies everything and makes it all about Jesus was God and this was all a plan and we had all this figured out. But it's interesting because like John's the one where it's like we've got to get him inside of a tomb quick because the Passover. And anyways, so then Mary shows up and the tomb's empty. Well, what if it's like, yeah, dude, like this was the temporary spot, but could you imagine Mary goes running back to the disciples and is like, hey, there's no one in the tomb. I
right.
mean,
Well, think
the
about
sigh of relief.
how
Yeah,
fast a story spreads, you
right.
know.
Yeah. And there's
But
no internet back then. You can't like fact check any of this. So Mary comes running back to the disciples. The tomb's empty. Everyone's excited at that point. They're like, dude, I knew it. Just like Tupac, he's not really dead.
and Elvis.
And Elvis. And there was this guy in the 90s. He was like a, a Jewish rabbi. I'd have to look it up. But like in the 90s, they still to this day, there's a group of people that think that he's not dead, that he rose from the dead. And there's like this movement where he is the actual Messiah who's going to take things into the next age. Anyways, I just think that's kind of interesting too. So I think
Um,
unequivocally,
okay, 4. We do
I
have some
think,
viewers.
yeah.
Somebody's listening.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think unequivocally we could say that Peter came back and claimed that he saw Jesus come back from the dead. That seems like referenced in multiple sources. Like Peter was a reference. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that I know enough about that to speak.
I'm just going to check this out. Because if we're trying to trace this back,
Well, who is it that says it depends on the number of sources at the proximity and time? So it's like it needs to be closer to the time that the event was supposed to have happened. The more like concurrent views, like the number of people who said it.
that's Bart Ehrman.
Is that a Bart Ehrman?
Because and that's actually just the historical method. So like Bart Ehrman holds closely to the fact that like we have to use the historical method to prove whether or not things happened, right? So the farther we can go back to the source, the more accurate. The more like independent sources, the more accurate.
Right.
Yep. And I think that's the problem, is that basically outside of the Gospels, all we have is Josephus, which the like authentic Josephus just kind of references Jesus. Then you've got the edited version, which I believe, like, and most like critical scholars believe, that like there was a version of Josephus, and then the early church fathers like pulled out like, oh, but look at this version of what Josephus said, and it was clearly not written with Josephus's like tone of voice and everything, and it's like, oh
There's a lot
yeah,
of that in Paul too.
right, yeah, oh, it's the son. Oh yeah, very good point
Mhm.
actually. So like, so with the Josephus thing, like it comes back, oh, Jesus was the son of God, which is very strange because Josephus himself was not a Christian. He was a adherent Jew. Like, why would he blaspheme and say that Jesus was the son of God in his book that was like written if he didn't truly believe it? Which, so that's just absurd. So I think we can throw out the Josephus can be thrown out entirely. Tacitus basically mentioned these, who are these Christians, basically, to Caesar in a way that like, I'm going to deal with these Christians. This is way after, like, this is like hundreds of years later, where it's like, who are these guys that are like coming up and like acting crazy about this like Jesus character? But outside of those, it's basically the Gospels who clearly had a like agenda.
Right. That's the other thing as far as the, what did you call it about the Bart Ehrman, like
Historical like framework or method,
the other thing was not having a bias, not
Right.
having an agenda. And of course he said, if you're have the like drive to write about something, you're probably going to have at least some skin in the game. Like you're going to have enough interest in it to give enough of a crap to write about it in the first place. But if your agenda is, I want to prove that Jesus was the Messiah versus was Jesus a real person? What do we think is historically true about him?
Right.
What might he have done versus,
it's like the Gospels mean the good news. They don't mean the historical accuracy. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the term the Gospels.
Wait. Unpack that. What do you mean?
So what I mean is like the term the Gospels means the good news. It doesn't mean the historical accuracy. It's coming with an agenda. It's like I'm presenting to you
why I believe
right
this is the Jesus story.
Right. Versus just the like, this is actually what happened. I'm gonna see if I can change my computer into dark mode so that way it's not so blinding.
Is it bright in your face?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we don't have any brave Christians yet.
No brave Christians. Any non-Christians that want to come up and have the conversation, interested in hearing your thoughts.
Especially about the tomb. I think that one is fascinating.
The tomb is interesting.
And the resurrection, to be quite honest. Like, why do we, like, I know those kind of go together, but why do we think, what is the convincing evidence that this man became a zombie?
Right. Why do we believe that he became a zombie? I don't know how to change this. This is so funny because also, if there's anybody watching that knows how to turn your Chrome browser into dark mode, it's like the most basic thing. It's probably like right up at the top. How change Chrome to dark mode? There it is. Settings, appearance.
Three-dot menu.
Boop.
I knew it.
And then appearance. So, okay, settings. Wow.
Is this really that important right now?
Kind of, but okay, maybe not.
Appearance over there on the left middle.
Boom. Damn.
Dark.
Wow. There we
Did
go.
make a change in our.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate anyone who followed us on that. Deal. This is so much better now. Our life has improved. Plus, the light of the hellfire has changed to be better.
I do like that you have us burning down here.
We are burning. We would like to get out of this burning situation. So if there are any Christians who know why they still believe and can help us ascend into heaven, feel free to join. We are definitely interested. Otherwise, we're going to continue to talk about life in the Bible as we see it. So, okay, so empty tomb.
Right. So what Like, what is an argument you've heard for no, he really rose from the dead, other than the empty tomb? Some
Wow.
people thought they saw him, because when you really look at it, you can't even really name who.
So I think that's interesting because,
Isn't there a story about how there was many hundreds or something?
right. So Paul, it's in First Corinthians. Paul says, and Paul, the actual letters of Paul, which you referenced earlier, there are definitely letters that are attributed to Paul that
That
aren't
are
written
not
by
Paul, for
Paul.
sure.
There's
Clearly.
yeah, there's like 7 letters that critical scholars believe were definitely written by Paul. There's 6 letters that were clearly later written as Paul to prove things that the church wanted to be true. So it's
Right.
like, oh, we think women shouldn't speak in church. There's too many women speaking. Therefore, oh, this letter of Paul we just found.
And
It's sort of like when
that was
Joseph.
attributed to Paul, right?
It was
About
attributed
not
to Paul.
speaking in church?
Yep,
Okay.
Second Timothy. But it's funny because it's the exact same thing. It's so funny. It's like the exact same thing that happened in the Old Testament when Josiah was like, there's only one God. We can only believe in Yahweh. Oh, guys, we were renovating the temple and we found this text called Deuteronomy. And it says, oh, we can only, it literally says in the text, I believe it's First Kings, it literally says, we discovered this text, and it's how they found Deuteronomy. It's amazing. Anyways, right out of the playbook, they create like the other Pauline apostles. So the church was struggling because there was women popping off, speaking out in a culture,
Having an opinion.
having an opinion in a culture where women should not have an opinion. And so all of a sudden they found Second Timothy.
Was the rule, belief, whatever, that women should be subservient to their husbands part of that? Or did that come before? So
So
were they supposed to be serving their husbands and then they started talking and thinking too much and then they had to like double down on it?
So interesting. So in the culture, women were subservient. In as far as we know, according to the actual words of Jesus, as best as we can understand them, and we're using like the Q source, what Mark said, what Matthew and Luke said, what the Gospel of Thomas said. Jesus, in my opinion, was fluid and a little bit revolutionary in the way that he viewed like when he was very like Buddhist in his thought, like Confucianism type philosophy, which I think was cool. I think that actually is probably what kind of took a little bit of a hold. The problem is it became a problem because in the culture that wasn't the way you did things. And so when Paul had priestesses and female leaders in his Jesus movement groups, later it became a problem for the church fathers because they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Women can't
And they're
actually
like
talk.
expecting a role.
And that's why they created Second Timothy and things that clearly go against Paul's other letters because they were like, yeah, no, actually, on second thought, women can't, lead the church and speak up in class and things of that nature. So then they were like, but look at this letter that Paul wrote to Timothy, or Timothy wrote to
Just flip that page.
exactly. And so then they basically derailed that, pulled that off. So, anyways,
Which is interesting because that's one of the arguments about why would they have listened to the women if it was the women who went to the tomb first?
that's a really interesting question. That is actually a fascinating question because like women couldn't even at that time be a credible witness in court.
Right.
So why did
Was
they
that the time
have?
where it had to be two women
Yes, it could. Yeah, I think you're right.
who saw the same event?
Right. There was
But then it's like, how can you prove that a rape happened? Why would there be two women witnessing?
which, if I'm not mistaken, it's the last gospel, the Gospel of John, that has men verify that the tomb was empty. That's when Peter and
Okay, these girls said this.
Yeah.
You better go check.
Yes. So it's interesting because every single gospel is like it's like an evolution, and you can literally see, you can like picture like why the next one was written. So so Mark was written and it was like a tragedy. Like Jesus was a man, he came, he died, and then there was no appearance. So the last section of Mark in every Bible, it says the earliest manuscripts don't show this last part where it's like Jesus came back and appeared to everybody. So you've got like Mark where it's like Jesus was this guy, he lived, he died, and then the women came and they saw the tomb and there was like a dude in there.
But not in every version, right?
Right. That's so yes. So iteration one, great point. Iteration one, there's a dude in there and it's empty. End of story. Cut scene, drop the curtains, and everyone's like, whoa, but wait, what does that mean? Is
So
he
then we gotta write a little
alive?
bit
Whoa.
more.
And so then what happened was people you can just picture this in society. They're like, dude, okay, wow, you found an empty tomb. You're saying that he rose from the dead. Okay, maybe, but
I mean,
maybe
that seems like
not.
a jump. Like,
Exactly.
why wouldn't you be like, where did the body go? Not, oh, he must be walking on the water.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. And that's exactly, I think, what they said. So then what happened was you had two different areas, because keep in mind, like, yeah, we're in Mesopotamia and the Levant, which doesn't seem like that big of a geographical area for us today. But could you imagine if you had to walk 300 miles? Like, okay, buddy, you're going to walk 300 miles. Like, that takes a minute. And that's like a big
well,
area.
it's not like you have a way to communicate during that.
Right.
time.
You're not like walkie-talkieing, right. So you've got in one area the Luke gospel being written like decades later, and the Matthew gospel being written at the same time, but in two completely different areas. So you have like the Gentile region, what they call
So
the
it's interesting
diaspora.
because it's almost like how the word of mouth, like the lore, the storytelling, how it differed just enough
Mm-hmm.
based on region because people are retelling these stories.
Yep, and they were telling it to a
The
different
oral
audience.
tradition.
Exactly. So you've got like Matthew, who I believe was speaking primarily to Jewish people, like so you would have been close in like Judea or Jerusalem, and then you've got Luke speaking to the Gentiles in what they called the diaspora. These are the people like in other areas of the Levant that were Jewish people that were like Hellenized or in the Greek culture. And so they're writing two stories, which is why it's so funny because like the Matthew like birth story is so vastly different than the Luke birth story.
Oh yeah, I forget that it's not even just the resurrection aspect of the gospel, but the birth story of the gospel. Right. It is not.
No. And Mark doesn't even talk about it. And the reason why was because at the time it didn't matter. But what was happening, in my opinion, is once the Jesus movement started gaining popularity, rumors started floating about. And one of the most prominent rumors was that Mary was raped by a Roman guard.
Yes, I have heard that one.
Yeah, named Petra. And basically, Mark and Luke had to both reconcile the bubbling and huge issue that was going to crush Christianity at the time, that Jesus was some like bastard from a Roman thing, and Mary like, oh, and so then Luke and Matthew are both addressing the same issue. I would throw out there, there's no way for me to verify this, I would throw out there that Luke and Matthew were writing at the exact same time. They didn't know that the other one was writing. I think that they both had the same source material, which we now know as the sayings of Jesus, called Q. They were writing their own gospel using Mark because the narrative is similar. Like Matthew has the Beatitudes on the Sermon on the Mount. Luke has the Beatitudes on the Sermon on the Plains. I mean, you got one on a mountain, one on the plains.
It's quite different. Kansas versus Colorado.
Right, exactly, exactly. But they're both kind of like creating the same. They're both in the same situation where they have to account for no. Mary didn't just have some bastard kid by a Roman guard.
I just read something about this where it's like the problem was, what do we do with Mary's pregnancy?
Right.
And because they didn't all originally talk about Joseph.
No.
The like stepfather like that stepped in and whatever figure
Right.
was kind of because then it was like, well, why would you be telling me the lineage of Mary? We don't go down the lineage from
Right.
women.
Right.
Women's
And technically, you're referring to Luke's gospel. That lineage doesn't say this is the lineage of Mary. That's what the church had to say later to account for why Matthew and Luke's are so crazily different. So like Matthew's lineage and Luke's lineage are vastly
so
different.
one had to be Joseph and one had to be Mary.
Yeah, so then they were like, that's because they were talking about
Of
Mary's
course.
lineage.
Okay, so basically we have this problem, unwed mother.
Yep.
This baby has to be important, and it can't be important if it's a bastard.
Right.
So what do we do?
Right.
It can't be some illegitimate Roman
Exactly.
guard. It can't be Mary's out getting busy on the side.
Right. It has to be a reason.
Right.
And so then they made it like, yeah.
Are there other stories other than the Jesus story where they talk about some kind of immaculate conception or some kind of like this
Yeah.
was born of a pure woman?
Well, interestingly enough, a virgin woman is interesting. I believe it's Semele with Dionysus. I think it's Semele. I'm gonna ask, was Semele a virgin? So the problem is, whoops, if I can spell, had Dionysus. It's my Assassin's Creed coming in here. So one thing that is unique about the Jesus narrative is that Mary was a virgin. Now, there was also a Vestal virgin. Who was the Vestal virgin that became pregnant? Hold on. There's only one other example that we know of, right? So, I mean, obviously, we only have what's handed down to us.
Remus? Oh, Romulus and Remus.
Yes, Romulus and yes. Okay, so I do remember that like so the founder of Rome was Romulus. And the legend goes that his mother was a Vestal virgin, which is one of the priestesses that like would get oracles and prophesy. And his mother became pregnant as a Vestal virgin and gave birth to Romulus. So Romulus is really the only other example of like a god man that was born to a virgin. Most other you know, god man births were Zeus coming down
and impregnating
a woman either as himself or taking the form of an
so
animal.
like the gods actually taking credit for the child at that point.
Right. And there was like a serpent, there was like a snake impregnation. A lot of it's very hentai like porn kind of situation. But yeah, so interesting though. Interesting, but that is an interesting thing to me because it's like, okay.
I did get a little feedback that I'm a little quiet.
Oh yeah.
A little closer.
I mean, my voice carries typically,
but
louder than it needs to.
I was also kind of leaning back a little because I was talking to you. So anyway, we're talking about virgins.
Talking about virgins.
So then I find it interesting that there's different accounts of whether or not Mary was a virgin forever, because that's super important in the Catholic faith that she never had.
That is fascinating to me because I was not a Catholic, so like, why did she have to be a virgin forever? Also, if there's any Christians that join the chat or friends that want to come up and have a conversation, this is the link. But tell me about why it's so important to Catholics.
Because the idea of, I don't know if it comes from Paul, that like it's best if you don't ever marry.
Yes.
Like the purity culture, like if
that
you can
Paul.
remain
Mm-hmm.
sinless and pure.
Yep.
And that's why like people say Catholics worship Mary. Catholics would say they don't worship Mary, that she is like a midpoint. She helps talk to Jesus because she's so much holier than everyone else. She's clearly in heaven and like, you know, can whisper in his ear on our behalf, sort of thing. But yeah, it's very important that she was ever virgin. Hail Mary talks about it. We pray it 1,000 times every rosary. We talked about that the other day. Still always say we when I talk about Catholicism, even though I don't really relate to them anymore.
That's why you're in hell right now. So
It's so much warmer.
I'm gonna try to pull this up. I'm so sorry, guys. I work on a MacBook at work, and then I come here with my PC, and I forget how.
And you really like to complain about it.
Yeah, I forget how this works. Okay, so here's what you're talking about. I'm gonna see if I can just share this real quick.
Eric in the chat. I came back in at snake impregnation and was like, what?
Oh, yeah, we can definitely get more into that. There was definitely snake impregnation. So 1 Corinthians 7:29, okay? So this is what you're talking about where it says, brothers and sisters, again, 1 Corinthians 7:29, the appointed time has grown short. From now on, let even those who have wives be as though they have none. And it goes on to say, like, you know, if you're burning with passion, not unlike
then
us,
you should get married.
then you should get married so that you don't, like, you know, sin, right?
Right.
But this is an interesting thing because it's so interesting how the Catholics took that, and I love to just dog on, like, it's like I'm a Protestant, you're a Catholic fight. I like that because it always blew my mind that Catholics were like, oh, virgins and celibacy. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they took it from this verse.
Are Catholics the only one, like the monks and the nuns, and
Yeah.
do any of the other religions have the like ever celibate like caste of people?
Lutherans, in the word of our best friend Heather, are Catholic light or Catholic like, and they have that sort of a thing too. But most like non-denominational Protestants don't hold to this, like,
because a lot of other denominations can have pastors or priests that are married.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So what's interesting, this is, in my opinion, taken way out of context, because the reason Paul wrote this actual letter in context, if you actually go back to the entire chapter, he's talking about the fact that, like, Jesus is coming back so soon that you shouldn't even have a job.
The brothers and sisters of Jesus.
Right.
The brothers, of course, who are named. The sisters, of course, who are not.
Right. Why would they? Yeah.
There's only like less than half a dozen women in the Bible with an actual name.
It would be interesting to know the percentage of women names in the Bible that aren't Mary. You're taking the New Testament. Yeah, you got Ruth, Tamar, basically all the, like, Bathsheba. Obviously, they had to say Eve, but technically it was like a play on words. Esther, Sarah, Rebecca.
There's a couple.
There was a few, yeah. I mean, new and noteworthy.
No, he's giving Ruth and Deborah.
Yeah, oh, Deborah. Yep, forgot about Deborah. Also, it's interesting too because, like, I love it how basically 2.5 million people left Egypt, and there were like 600,000 men and their women and children. By the way, could you imagine, like, the population, a 2.5 million population, wherever anyone's watching this, if you can imagine a city of 2.5 million people, because if you figure like 600,000 fighting men, that doesn't include like the old guys, the young dudes, plus these nameless women that don't have male genitalia that are also incorporated, traipsing across the freaking land, and they don't leave a single sign to this day. Like, that's a lot of freaking people.
Well,
I grew up on a farm, and we had like maybe 30 or 80 cattle. I know it's a range. You can tell how much work I actually have.
I was going to say.
But they look like cattle trails, like visible cattle trails. And you've got 2.5 million people walking, and there's no like archaeological evidence.
Trace.
This is why I'm asking the question, Christians, why do you still believe in this? I want to know because I don't want to be the weirdo. I feel like a weirdo in the United States of North America, where it's like, we're the odd person out. Everyone else
has this community. They all
believe that, yeah, this guy walked on water. He turned water into wine. I mean, this sounds like one of the coolest people. Like, I would want to be friends with this guy.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, he turned water into wine. That sounds way better than my drink. This is my water. By the way, this is my my water. It's probably too small for the camera, but it just says disappointments, all of you. Anyway. But
Oh,
anyways,
Eric says our Lutheran church didn't really discuss Mary having other kids. Our pastor was like, "Well, yeah, she probably had other kids." So, like, oh, I mean, it would be very strange in that time period not to, because that was how you proved your worth as a woman. Was
in the Gospel of Mark, she did. That was another one of those exact things we were talking about. So, for example, the first gospel written was Mark. In the Gospel of Mark, it says that Mary had other children and Jesus had brothers, and it names them. Now, what happened was, to your point, in Luke and Matthew's time, so going a decade or two later, we've got issues with the Gospel of Mark. So the Gospel of Mark had one issue. They never physically saw Jesus come back from the dead.
okay,
It just, the curtain dropped. The second issue was he was a bastard from some Roman
right? The
soldier.
right?
Okay, that's another major issue. Because if you think about it, why would you have to rewrite a gospel? Not because it was perfect. You had to rewrite it because it wasn't. And issues happening at the time. So then the third issue was, well, wait a minute. Jesus had brothers and sisters. Why weren't they God's children too?
Right.
So then what happened was Matthew and Luke come along. They introduced the virgin birth, which wasn't in Mark. They introduced Jesus coming back and showing himself to the people
Proving
after
it.
he was
right.
Yep, after the tomb was empty. And then also, Mary really didn't have other kids.
Right.
So that's why if you skip Mark, you can read all three other gospels and be like, yeah, Jesus didn't have any brothers or sisters. It was just Jesus. And Mary was just this perfect virgin that never unvirgined. In fact, I believe it's the Gospel of Peter that the midwife puts her fingers inside Mary and verifies after Jesus was born that the hymen was still intact. It's apocryphal, so it's not like one of the canonized gospels, but it's one of those apocryphal.
Traumatizing.
Yeah, it's one of the apocryphal Gnostic gospels where they verify, oh, she's still a virgin. She had the child vaginally, but luckily she's still a
Yeah,
virgin.
because I don't think they really had C-sections back then.
Not successful ones, probably.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe, but I don't know.
Like, that's why the infant mortality rate was much higher.
Abdominal muscle reconstruction in the ancient Near East would be kind of traumatizing, I feel like, from a standpoint. So
from a standpoint.
So that's I think why they did that in those other gospels. Anyways, interesting.
Oh yeah, he's referencing the apocryphal scriptures.
So I'm gonna actually unshare this because I forgot that I had it up. Boom, and I can get back more into my hellfire lighting, which is perfect.
It does look very doomy down there.
It is doomy. Guys, honestly, it's not really that hot. I'm fine. I mean, I took off my fox slippers because they were feeling a little warm. But, I'm still like in a light hoodie and it's... Hell's not that.
Not that bad.
Man. Oh, did we freeze?
Uh-oh.
Maybe we got banned.
For what? You get banned on YouTube. It's only on TikTok.
No, my computer literally froze, man. What the heck? What happened? That's really funny.
He said small freeze can still hear you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Still hear it.
So
I don't have any way to like that's wild. Like my whole computer is froze on the screen.
What happened?
This is good to know. I don't really have a way. So I'm gonna have to go and physically power down. Good to know.
Might be the animated background causing your GPU to chug.
Oh. We've got this. All right. Quick intermission. Coming back soon.
Try again. See if I can get a Christian
soon. Yes. See if we can wrangle a Christian.
Listen, they might all be at church.
Studio, add the stage. Okay, let me see if I can shrink that down. I'm going to see if I can open up. So this is the, you know what? I'm going to see if I can change this to dark mode.
Would that make it weird on the screen for viewers?
Would it or not, maybe? I mean, people look at their screen in dark mode, right?
Not everybody likes that.
Oh, okay, fair. I'm actually curious just to see what happens. Oh, dark. Okay, it actually says dark, so it's actually is what it is, actually. Okay. All right, well, I'm just going to leave it then.
Yay, I see you, he says.
So we're live again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are live. Good to know that it automatically just like went.
It went back on
It
its
just
own.
like went back. Well,
I did a quick restart. We're going to try some trial and error with the
Yeah, that was very candid of us because we didn't even know we were live. Okay, cool.
animated background that may or may not be the problem.
Give me an excuse to buy a better GPU. Actually, don't. I'm trying to save my money.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now we've got 2 views. One of just us.
That's cool. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So it's good to know we're back live in the stream. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, Christians, if there are any Christians out there still, I believe most Christians probably have given up on this ridiculousness. But if there are any, let us know. Why should we believe that this is real? When, according to what we can see, it seems like not real.
Or just like not true. Like clearly religion is real because so many people feel like they have a relationship to this person or this faith or this identity or this culture. Like religion in and of itself is real. I'm concerned with, is it true? And I am unconvinced.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
That it's true.
That's a really good way to put it. So it's not that it's not. Yeah, we're interested in the truth.
I think even Jesus was real. I'm not convinced he was a Messiah.
In like the cosmological, magical genie version. Well, and technically not in the king version either, because he didn't technically rule.
Well, he wasn't a king.
Right. So yeah, because it says
what is that verse?
Well, Josiah was the Messiah. I mean, it says that Josiah was the Messiah. Verse where
the time is short.
Was the Messiah. Oops. It's like it's got to be in Kings. Yeah, 2 Kings 23. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, with all his soul, with all his majesty, in accordance with the law of Moses, nor did any like him arise after. So that's 2 Kings 23:25. That is about Josiah. Now, to be fair, it was the Josiah dynasty. When Josiah was king, that's when they discovered Deuteronomy. They discovered the law of the Lord. And, he was the Messiah. In fact, in 1 Kings 13:2, it's where it says that this prophecy in the Old Testament is great.
Frozen, but this isn't.
Oh, I think yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Back. So this was something that was hugely interesting to me. So in 1 Kings 13, okay, so if you just read the chapter of 1 Kings 13.
Put it up?
Oh yeah, actually I probably can here. 1 Kings 13. I'm just gonna say 13 because I don't want to see the whole chapter here. Let's test this is good. This is good practice. Boom, boom. I love this. Dang, because you know, if I've often thought what it would be like to start
a cult.
Well,
the amount of times that he has said to me,
don't get me on some sort of blacklist here or some sort of. Okay, let's see here. So this is 1 Kings 13. And so it says, a man of God came out of Judah by the word of the Lord to Bethel. Okay. And it said, he cried out in front of the altar by the word of the Lord and said, O altar, Thus says the Lord, a son shall be born to the house of David. Now, Jesus by name.
No.
Oh, what? The Messiah wasn't Jesus? Oh, it says Josiah. So this was supposedly written 300 years before Josiah was born. And now, granted, I posit that Josiah's dynasty wrote this, which just makes it even more funny. But Josiah, by the actual name, is going to be born, and he shall sacrifice on you the priests of the high places who offer incense on you, and the human bones shall be burned on you.
I don't really care for burning of human bones.
Well, what happened was Josiah was telling all the people like you can only worship Yahweh, but out in the hill country, the farm folk, they still had their like high places. Now this is not Colorado or Seattle high places. This is like actually it might have been like that. I'm not sure. But they had like Asherah, poles and like other gods that they worshipped in the high places, and Josiah was going to get rid of those. And so when they discovered this text magically during Josiah's reign, happened to be that the king's name was going to be Josiah, and that was the prophecy. So anyways, kind of interesting. I'm not really sure how we got on that
We
topic.
were talking about the fact that Jesus wasn't ever a king on a throne.
That's the
and the prophecy says that there will be a king who rules.
Josiah by name.
But no, what's the prophecy that says there will be a king who will rule and he will strike the war horses?
I don't know. I think we need a Christian to come and explain this. Now, that is the thing about Christians, is that they are supposed to have the Holy Spirit, which will give them all understanding. So if there's a Christian on that can come up and explain to us why you still believe, you can click the link. It's in our description, and you can also type that into your phone and join and tell us why you still believe, because we are at a loss. This seems
silly.
Kind of silly. Trying to think of why. Quite frankly, the eyewitness sources. So if you go to Paul, it's like it says Peter saw Jesus, the 12, and 500 people.
Right, and 500.
That's pretty sketchy, man. Are you sure it wasn't 432? I looked out at the group of people, and there were
exactly 500.
I was in the assembly. How many were there? 500.
That was the amount allowed. So once it was full, it was full.
Once the hillside
the venue was full.
Yeah, once the hill was full. This hill's maximum occupancy is
exactly 500.
500.
Yes.
So that's how many saw Jesus before Jesus, scooted up into heaven.
Yeah, so he resurrected from the dead. And then
he
walked around for a little bit to just be like, hey, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back. And then he just went on up.
So what's funny is in Paul's letters, which are the first
how
accounts,
exactly did he get up there?
Well, according to John in them, he went up in the clouds bodily.
But how? Did God do a little
I think he flew. I think he jumped on a cloud and flew up like Mario.
Mario physics, that actually makes it make more sense.
Yeah, because there's that guy that throws the spiky things down. It's like that cloud sort of.
But you can jump in those certain clouds and then you can fly around.
That is, I think, exactly how that happened.
So Jesus got in a cloud.
But here's what's interesting. Now, Christians, because I do not have the Holy Spirit, so any Christian who's on needs to pop up here and tell me if I'm wrong. But I understand that, again, like we were talking about, in Mark, Jesus doesn't actually come back and show himself. He just pieces out.
Right, he's just not in the tomb.
Right. And then Mark and Luke have to account for that along with the virgin birth stuff.
Wait, you said Mark, he didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew and Luke, my bad. Matthew and Luke have to account for that. So in those Gospels that were written after Mark, he comes back and shows himself. And, ooh, yeah, look at me. In John has to take it 20 steps further. I'm not going to get into the Logos unless people really want. I need a Phil bro on here to start talking to me about Philo.
I don't need a Phil bro today.
Okay, fine.
I mean, if you're there and you want to talk,
if you're there and you want to join, there's the link. But John comes along and he even says, that Jesus like hung out with the disciples for 40 days after he came back. So John's like, wait. I know, because you can just imagine this. Like, people read Mark and they're like, no, dude, he didn't even come back. How do we even know this is real? This is ridiculous. He was just born of like a Roman war bride situation with Mary. So then Mark or Matthew and Luke come on. No, it was a virgin birth, just like Dionysus and Semele and like freaking, who was the other one that we found out?
Romulus,
just like Romulus. Yeah, it was a virgin birth. It was so magic. And then time passes and they're like, and there's like all these skeptics. There's all these skeptics. And like, but did he really come back? And then John has to come out. And in that time period, a very popular notion was the philosophy of Plato. And it was like, I want to say Middle Platonism, not Neoplatonism. It was like Neo-Pythagoreanism. Anyways, Philo in Jewish philosophy was talking about this like logos and things. And
Chat says Dionysus, the god of drunkenness, who also turned water into wine? ?
Yes, thank you. Honestly, you know what? Big W out to any god or man god who turns water into wine. Dang, man, that kind of makes me wish we had some wine.
I know.
Anyways, we might have to make that happen. I can't turn water into wine, but we can just like pour wine. That's not as cool.
That's not nearly as impressive.
Also, any Christians that have joined up, feel free to let us know why you believe that Christianity is real, because we are just absolutely unconvinced. We think it's kind of goofy.
Ooh.
And we would be interested to know why you think that it's real. But John, where are we going with the Gospel of John? Oh, then he had to take it a step further and say that Jesus like hung out with his disciples, I think, for like 40 days after he like resurrected.
Our friend Eric says they wrote a whole paper about how the Greek pantheon and the angelic monotheistic pantheon were essentially the same.
What? What do you mean? The Greek pantheon?
So the angelic, like monotheistic pantheon of people and the Greek pantheon of gods, like the gods line up. Like there's a Jesus and a Dionysus. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, like synchronicity.
Right.
Oh, there was interesting. That would be interesting to know, like how the Greek, because if you think about it, like it was during that time and like it was like in that Greek world that they were, that Jesus like came up.
Right. No, it's like the same story over and over. They're parallel stories. Like the Jesus story wasn't the first story of a son of God.
Right, because like Addis, which I'm trying to remember who Addis was born to. It wasn't a virgin. Again, I'm going to give Mary some major props, assuming she wasn't, and honestly, here's the thing. Sorry, but I'm going to have to say this right now. My heart goes out to Mary. I feel like she lived through one of the most difficult times of human history. She saw 2,000 Jewish men crucified on the road in 4 BC. So this was the revolt against the palace of Herod, and the leader was Judas, not the Judas from like the New Testament story, but like Judas, the Jewish revolter, who tried to like throw down against the Romans, and they sent legions in and just slaughtered the Jewish uprising and crucified 2,000 men and they hung them up and down the road. So if you're traveling up and down the road and just hearing the cries of these people, that's what Mary saw. At the same time, she was pregnant.
And she was what, like 14?
Right. Debatable, 12 to 14.
Which is interesting because normally, well, I don't need to get into Aisha, but there's a little parallel there. Right. Nick, I would be interested. I hope you're actually drinking the pickle vodka right now. And I need to know on a scale of 1 to 10 if I need to try pickle vodka.
Oh, that's a very good question. And can you turn water into pickled vodka?
I think Nick can do anything, including turn water into pickled vodka.
Nick can turn water into pickled vodka. He doesn't even need to walk on water. At that point, I'm following his religion. So,
Zeus Yahweh parallel.
oh, a lot of the different domains of the gods, the angels. Zeus, if God Yahweh. Oh, there were
So Zeus is
levels.
God.
Yeah.
Jesus is like a demigod.
Yeah, that's where you really
But
struggle.
then you have to do the whole Trinity, but like Jesus is really God, but he's not God. He's a son of God, but he's also a spirit.
That's the problem with the Trinity. See, like in
The Trinity really, like if there's a Christian that can make that make sense to me.
So I wish, I wish I knew when I was a young Christian that actually believed in this stuff, that I would have been one of the early Christians because I didn't have to wrestle with that. So, like, if you imagine you're one of Paul's followers, Paul's like, y'all, it's happening right now.
Right.
Don't even start a business. Don't do anything. It is happening.
Don't get married.
Don't even get married. Don't have kids because don't clean your room because Jesus is coming back.
Love that.
Yeah, Jesus is coming back like now. So so they didn't have to worry about this weird like dogma and like, if this, if that. But then what happened was as it evolved, Hercules, Zeus. Oh, dang. Somebody just brought up a Hermes thing. Okay, Zeus Hermes. I wasn't gonna go there, but someone's bringing up the freaking logos. Okay, so you've got Zeus.
All right, well, it isn't wine, but it looks fancy.
Oh, thanks, dude. Also we've got Baroque. This is very Greco glass.
Yeah,
very Hellenistic.
It's from the Roman gods.
Very Hellenistic of you. That's Medusa. Okay, but anyways, so you've got Zeus, which is the king god, right? Like Yahweh. Okay, now nobody push me on Gnosticism because we can get into demiurge stuff. But if you've got El, which Yahweh overthrew to become El, King Yahweh, and then you've got Zeus, and you've got Jesus, and you've got Hermes. Jesus was like the word, the messenger, the logos, right? That's Philo. Philo loved this whole concept because Plato introduced the fact that you've got these like gods that are so far above humanity that no one can understand them. The only way that humanity can understand the word of the gods is through the word of the gods, which was like the Hermes. Correct me if I'm wrong. The messenger, yes. The messenger.
Also, if any of you want to come up here and have a conversation
come up and
with
explain
us,
your point too, because if I'm totally off, come up and
Christians
explain.
aren't calling in. You might as well.
Yeah.
We can talk about how Jesus and Hercules are.
Yeah,
twinsies.
In fact, I'd love to actually hear this. And you don't have to be on camera either. You can actually select like no camera if you just want audio. That's totally cool too. But that's the way I'm understanding what you're saying.
What is this,
Morgan? What is this?
This is some kind of whiskey that you.
Is this did Nick turn this into pickle vodka?
No, it's
remotely.
One you infused, but I don't know what you put in it, and it's kind of strange.
Interesting. I think it was hemlock. Was it hemlock? Anyways.
Oh crap.
Things are gonna get wacky. Hey, we're already in hell over here. It's cool. Whatever smooths things over. But pickle whiskey. Yeah, pickle whiskey. But yeah, so that is a very interesting thing. The all of the parallels.
Right.
I mean, literally. So yeah, I did do I did create a gem where like, by the way, I'm looking out the window and it's like freaking snowing where I'm at right now in hell. It's really wet. But anyways, so we digress. Did Jesus walk on water? What are your thoughts?
I highly doubt it.
Can you imagine? I have told stories about my grandpa that have become legendary that were clearly not true, that I personally know aren't true, but I personally know when I tell them that I'm not tricking people, but I want people to think that my grandpa really did that, but maybe he didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Or maybe it's a little bit better of a story than the real story. Like it's embellished. That's the word I'm looking for.
I'm in sales, and one of my best managers told me never let numbers get in the way of a good story. So like, or no, actually, I think he said never let facts get in the way
I
of a
think
good
that's
story.
what it was.
Yeah,
Yes,
never let
yes.
facts get in the way of a good story.
Which is what I'm saying about, like, I believe Jesus was a real person. I don't have any reason
Probably.
not to believe
I don't
that.
have a reason not to
History
believe that.
seems to suggest that.
Mhm.
Now, do I believe I know what he said and did? I think that's a little sketchier.
You know, that's really interesting because so
He didn't write anything down. He didn't leave us anything that says, I believed this, I did this, I said this.
to the best of our knowledge, Jesus was illiterate.
Right.
First of all, whenever he quotes the Old Testament, he's gets his facts wrong because he's reading the Old Testament in Greek. So to be clear, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and the time that the Gospels were written, the Old Testament had been translated to Greek because none of the Gospel writers spoke Hebrew. So they're using a translation of the Hebrew Bible to understand the Old Testament. And so when Jesus references the Old Testament in his sayings, there are times where he gets it wrong because it's just a bad Greek translation, which we know now because we actually have,
Good Greek translations?
well, good Greek translations and good Hebrew translations. So Jesus was, if according to the story, he was using a Greek translation. He didn't write anything down, and in fact, it's interesting because he actually spoke Aramaic, which is really a good job. I think it's Mark who, whenever he quotes Jesus, he like uses Aramaic like a, and this is what Jesus actually said, Raka, which is Aramaic, and it's like a big deal. Like, okay, hold on, guys, I'm going to speak Aramaic. Everyone, stand back.
Oof.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's interesting.
So what did you put in that whiskey?
I think it was like pecan wood, maybe. I don't know, man. It was only supposed to be in there for like 2 days, and I think we accidentally let it sit for like, it's been a couple weeks now.
Yeah, I might
It tastes a little bit like
fermented fruit.
fermented fruit and like driftwood from the river. River driftwood.
Ooh, well, a sip or two will do ya.
You know what? What's interesting? There was, and someone's got to fact check me on this one in terms of who said it, but
Eric might know.
it's yeah. Let me know if you know in the chat. But like somebody said that when you step into a river, you're never stepping into the same thing.
Pocahontas?
Did she say that?
It was in the movie.
Did she? No, but that's like a famous saying
it's
from
a
somebody.
song from Pocahontas. You can't step in the same river twice.
Damn it. Okay, hold on. You can't step it. That's not Disney did not coin that term, guys.
I'm just saying
the real Pocahontas was not a cartoon.
Obviously, the real anyone was not a cartoon.
Water twice. So here's my question for the chat. Why do all of the like resurrection stories change? So like in Mark, there was one dude in the tomb next to a pile of clothes. In Luke, there was 2 angels, if I'm not mistaken. In Matthew loves to exaggerate. I freaking love Matthew. Matthew's my guy. I would tell stories.
I thought you liked
Matthew.
Mark the best.
Well, Mark is the best story because it like ends like a horror movie. Matthew though is like, oh, the women came back to the tomb and this angel is coming down from the sky. And like this just magical thing.
You guys, can I just interject? This is not a persona. This is what it is like every day of my life with this man.
Sorry.
Telling me stories, making the sound effects. The big voice is not a show. The big voice is the voice.
Oh, Heraclitus said the thing about the same river twice.
It's not the same river, and he's not the same.
Yes, it's attributed to the ancient Greek. Thank you, Greek philosopher Heraclitus. That's really.
I want to read more about Heraclitus. You should buy a book so that I can steal it from your Audible library.
No, that's legit. Actually, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, and then
also like Morgan's comment about time gaps between the retelling. It's like the telephone game. It's exactly what it is.
So I know that this is probably played out for any people who follow Bart Ehrman because he thinks it's so funny, and I'm just dorky enough to side with Bart on this. But like,
I love Bart Ehrman.
If
you guys haven't read Bart Ehrman, you should read Bart Ehrman.
The concept in the life of Brian, where if you think about this, okay, Jesus is telling the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, now we're in a time right now where like I'm having audio problems and I've got like headphones, microphone, computer, we're zapping across the internet. But if you can imagine, there's this dude up on a hill, okay? He's on a hill and he's talking without a microphone, without speakers. And he's telling this Beatitudes like, blessed are the rich, blessed are the poor, blessed are these, blessed are those. And there's like people that are like way back, you know, like not like right next to him, but like down. And this is what is supposedly being like written down, which we clearly know didn't get translated like accurately, like as a copy, because Luke and Matthew don't even get them the same, right? But it's so funny because like one of them's like, wait, did he just say blessed is the cheese? Like, what did he say? Wait, no, I think he said the wine and the cheese. Blessed is the wine and the cheese? Like, it's like, how did people even like
That's
know?
why we all have to turn our water into wine.
Or pickle whiskey.
Pickle whiskey would be an upgrade from this.
Yeah.
I have had pickle whiskey once.
And could you imagine if you're one of the followers of Jesus? Okay, so you left your wife and kids, which is what Jesus told you to do. Leave your wife and kids, stop fishing, join me. Just like David Koresh's cult.
Right.
And just like Jim Jones, and just like the Hail Bop comment people, what was those guys? Heaven's Gate group. I mean, there's been multiple cults, many cults, even like the Helter Skelter cult.
I was just going to say Charles Manson.
Yeah, you leave your family and all of your friends and all of your life, and you go follow this person. Okay, so you're following this person. And then all of a sudden, it's like you're getting into arguments on the way to Jerusalem about who's going to be second in command. And Jesus gets pissed and is like, stop talking about who's going to be second in command, because whoever's least of you will be the greatest, and the greatest the least, blah, blah, blah. Stop arguing about this. And then all of a sudden your leader dies. Normally that is where the cult ends. But then Cephas / Peter says, bro, I saw him. He came to me. And everyone's like, what? Wait, what? And then all of a sudden these stories pop up. Yeah. Oh. Yes. Oh, the full quote, known as the first beatitude from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, is blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. First of all, I freaking love that. I needed to get railed. I was going to say I needed to get railed.
Oof.
Because I was derailed.
And we're banned.
And now there's no longer a channel. Thanks for railing me, Eric.
Okay.
Okay. Because I needed to get back on track.
That's not how we're gonna say that.
I personally love I personally love the fact that Jesus said that. This is why I loved to be. So yeah, the chat's blowing up. So this is why I liked being a Christian, because I thought that this was amazing. I love Jesus's sayings. I love Jesus's teachings. By the way, if folks haven't gotten a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, go out and get one. It is amazing. In my opinion.
We have it, right?
Yes.
Let me go grab it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So you guys probably know this that are on the chat, because I don't think any Christians are joining. So I assume this is like a more educated group of people. Matthew and Luke wrote their gospels with an additional source of material that Mark did not have. So they had Mark in terms of a general skeleton framework, and that they were using, and then they took their liberties with that skeleton framework, and then they incorporated another source of material, which were many sayings of Jesus, who the Germans called Q, which is Quell, I think. It's like German for source, because they clearly both had their own materials, which is super interesting to me. Um, it might be in the it's probably in the Nag. It's in the Nag Hammadi. Yeah, it's the Nag Hammadi codices. So what happened was, for the longest time, scholars since like the late 1800s knew that there was this other source of material that they both like were referencing, that they called Q. And then I freaking love this story. I'm so excited. Monitor the chat, because and people jump up, join in if I'm popping off the rails. Oh yeah, feel free to.
He just said he equates it to people talking about how big their fish are.
Oh yeah, totally same. So this blows my mind. So in 400 CE, Theodosius makes a decree that everything outside of St. Augustine's canon needs to be burned and destroyed. But there was this freaking monastery by Nag Hammadi, which is like in the Egyptian area. Yeah, reference that. No. So they took their ancient texts and they
I was like, what do we have marked? It's the Gospel of Thomas.
Yes, yeah. So they took all these ancient papyri and they put them inside of a clay jar and they sealed it with tar so that it wouldn't get obviously the elements wouldn't ruin it, and they buried it. Well, in this case, it was Muhammad Ali, not the boxer, okay, but a dude literally named Muhammad Ali that like was digging around and all of a sudden hit this clay jar. And he pulls out this thing, and there's all these old like papyri inside. And he's like, "What is this?" Well, he takes it back home, and it was him and I don't know if his brother or friend, I can't remember. But anyways, they were like, this might be worth something, whatever. So they keep it around for a while, but they don't know what to do with it. Well, meanwhile, the mom, Muhammad Ali's mom, starts burning some of these texts, like these old papyri, in the freaking fire for like warmth. And eventually they get on hard times, and he takes it to a local merchant and sells it. Long story short, this is like in the 1950s. They find out, oh shit, this is actually like ancient text from like 400 CE that is really valuable. And they start finding all of these other gospels. So this is where like the Gnostic gospels come from, because as we know from like the Paul letters, there were other gospels going around that were not true. They were not Pauline letters. And that's where these gospels came from. Anyways, the Gospel of Thomas is a collection of Jesus' sayings. The interesting thing to me is they match almost perfectly to what Matthew and Luke have as their sayings of Jesus, with a few caveats. And the caveats are interesting. There are things like you must become a man to enter heaven, but it's not as sexist as you think. It actually has more to do with like transcending humanity.
Yeah, you have
as a
the
woman.
Luke, the Mark, the Q and Mark, John and Mark.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, but the fact that like when they say history is written by the victor,
That's a good.
it's pretty evident that like the fact that we even have some of these old texts is because some like monk had to like hide them in a clay
so that it
jar.
didn't get destroyed.
Yeah, to get discovered
like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
1,600 years later is kind of crazy, actually. So, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like there's really not any Christians that are popping up.
Nope, there sure aren't. If anybody wanted to come and chat about any of the gods with us or anything else, we could chat for a little bit. We could try for a little longer.
Yep. Otherwise, we might need to
get Josh off on a tangent. Tell us your favorite Bible story for the day.
Oh, wow. I could definitely try to tell a Bible story. Actually, I would take a recommendation. I am a certified Sunday school teacher. I indoctrinated the children for many years. I'm here. And actually, if you are watching this live or later as recorded YouTube, and oh yeah, thanks for the chat on the Norse paganism. If you are a child that I indoctrinated, I sincerely apologize. I am here now to try to rectify the situation. I think that's how you say that. Thoughts on Norse paganism? Interesting. So, I am Norse by heritage. Um, my name actually means people of the North. If anyone wants to Google that, but uh, interesting. So, I have a limited knowledge well, I have a strong knowledge of the lore. My question is that I have for myself on Norse paganism is that it evolved later. So, like, if I'm understanding correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but like the Norse gods and the Norse pantheon came about much later, like in the 1000s CE. So we had like Sumerian uh, religions, or I should say like cults that started like 4000 BC, and then we had like Judaism, of course, like in like 722 BCE, maybe a little bit before from an oral tradition, and then we go clear up to like 1000 CE from an oral tradition, though, right? So it could have come from much older. Um, Quite frankly, I think the Norse religion is like very intellectual. Like the whole like Jotun giant clans. Oh, dang. 500 BC for the Norse. Okay, actually, that could totally be correct. Chat saying it could be 500 BC. That could totally be. And if that's the case, if Norse mythology technically was 500 BC, that would have put it on par with when they were getting their stuff together with the like Judean religion, because that's when like the refugees were coming down from Assyria into Judea, which prior to that there was really no written record. So that's actually very interesting. But I love Norse mythology. You can call it paganism. I hate the word paganism, right? Because paganism just means, of course, like anything other than
right.
Christian or Jewish, which is so like those people. But unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with, because that's what society is like branded it. Unfortunately, that's interesting. Yeah, but no, Norse mythology is amazing. You've got, I mean, it's actually it's where we get the days of the week from. So Wednesday is Odin's day. Thursday is Thor's day. Friday is Freda. I may be saying that wrong.
This is new to me.
Yeah, that's where we get the 7 days of the week's names.
Correct.
Yep. And then I believe Easter was actually
Morgan.
I believe Easter is actually named Freya, not Freda, Freya. And I believe Easter was Easter named after Estra? Was that Norse or was that Hellenistic? Name of Easter. Name of Easter goddess. Estar. Ooh, Ostara. Eostre, Old English, Proto-Germanic. Interesting. Easter goddess. So there's actually even a there is a text where I could Google it. It's out there, but it's where
I like that you're like picking your own brain though, and not just like
right
AI mode.
Right. There is a text out there that literally said we need to take the current holidays and beliefs and capture them
Hey,
for
Spiky
Christianity.
Steve! Thank you, friend.
Hey, Spike Steve.
We haven't found any brave Christians today, but we're talking about paganism currently.
Yeah, and that text that they were saying, like, you have to take the pagan holidays or the other people's holidays and capture them for Christianity and make them ours. And so it was like a concerted effort. Like it wasn't just like a, these people like this holiday. Let's just like, relabel it and call it Christian. Like they did it intentionally.
Well, yeah, you've got to keep enough familiarity to make people buy into it.
I think it was even the pseudo Paul letter, one of them of Timothy, whether it's First or Second Timothy, that says like essentially capture it for Christ. Take this, take this thing.
The things that have come out of your mouth on this live stream.
It's sort of like, it's like mayonnaise, like renaming it Pickle Whip and like selling it to the kids. I don't think I'm supposed to say that on a live. Anyways,
wow,
that's not my own. That was from a movie, but anyways, so yeah. So any Christians who want to join on up, feel free. We'd love to hear your reason why you still believe in this thing called Christianity. You know what? And if you're friendly and want to come up and like explain why you think it's silly, or like explain why you think people still believe. I personally believe it's because it's the cool thing to do.
That's like dumbing it down. I think it's because things are so ingrained in you. Changing your mind about something that is like core to you as a person, your identity, you build your identity around it. You can't just change your mind about that easily. It's why deconstructing is difficult.
Actually, that's a really good point. We have someone in the chat saying, I feel like the most claimed belief isn't so much a belief as it's wanting to uphold the tradition.
Yes, and belonging.
And
absolutely.
belong.
Sense of community.
Yeah, I actually, we have some friends. Obviously, we are non-Christians, but we have friends who are Christian, and that literally we've gotten them to the point to admit that the reason why they're Christian is because it's convenient. Like, it's easier to have a potluck with Christians than...
Well, they do tend to do a better job of getting together than atheists do.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on that. We've got the atheist community. It's booming. It's great. It's given me a great sense of...
For anyone who wasn't on the
belonging.
last chat, something came up that was great, which is an atheist potluck, where if you were a former Christian, that was part of a denomination, bring your denomination's best dish.
Which means, Morgan, I have to bring some kind of Midwest casserole with grapes in it.
Which I was like, what the hell? Catholics had grapes in their Midwest? Like, what is this? Like, they call it a casserole. It's got like Jell-O. It's got Cool Whip. It's got grapes. It's got almonds. What? No. This is why. How? Grapes and almonds and carrots, you said last time?
Sometimes they have carrots.
Okay, ours had cheese and corn and corn flakes on top.
Oh, that's the potatoes. Those are the good ones. The funeral potatoes. Coconut. Ugh.
Oof. Anyways, let's see.
So everyone think about what you had to bring
to
all your church potlucks. We're going to have an atheist potluck where everyone brings their dish.
I feel like it's going to be better for multiple reasons. One, we're getting multiple types, so it's like diversity. So instead of
what's the ex-Mormon bringing?
She was bringing
funeral potatoes.
Yeah. By the way, also check out the deconstruction. So we did have an episode where we were doing like deconstruction stories, which I think we will definitely need to do again. Where people
it was very
came
interesting.
Up and
Morgan, you might recognize someone in those videos if you take a look back at our content from earlier this week.
Yeah, it's interesting, but everyone has their own dish.
Yeah.
So also,
and what's yours?
That was the cornflakes. Actually, honestly, guys, I was such a germaphobe even when I was a Christian. I didn't believe that Jesus would save me from germs. This is probably why I didn't really have faith. So if there's any Christian on that wonders whether I was really a Christian or not, I would say that I did have a very personal belief in Jesus and that I was very much into it, in that I was a Sunday school teacher, worship band leader,
But you don't eat at a buffet.
but I did question germs, and I did. Jesus might turn water into wine, but I didn't know that he could, like, keep the germs from people who I knew had cats that were probably, no offense to people with cats, but they probably were on the counters while they were making the deviled eggs. And I love deviled eggs, but I just wondered if it was really safe or not to eat them, and I didn't know if Jesus would keep them from me or not. Christians, I see there's more viewers joining. If you're a Christian or if you're a non-Christian and you want to join the conversation, feel free to call on up. We would like to know why Christians still believe this thing that has, in my opinion,
Carol,
it's my
you
opinion.
showed up. Thank you.
In my opinion, I feel like it's been debunked. No, I don't know if debunk's the right word.
I think it's been, we've said this a couple times this stream. I think it's not that the idea of religion itself is clearly a very real thing. It's more a matter of what's true. And I think that that's
Right.
where we're having a hang up. We aren't convinced that this is true.
Right. It's kind of like our friends who we really respect that still hold to the belief system of Christianity. But to me, it's like, but if it's not true, why?
Why hold on to it?
And then they'll say things.
It's such a circular conversation because they keep coming back to the same place where it's like, well, it's hard. It hurts. It hurts to rip off the like the comfort blanket, the security blanket.
Right. Right. Well, and it's like maybe, so then they'll say, well, we like the teachings of Jesus because he believes that, you should help people, give them your cloak, blessed are the poor, and those sort of things. And I agree. That's what I loved most about it. Like
I'm working on it.
my dad, the pickled whiskey. My dad was very much fire and brimstone. So there
wasn't a lot of comfort in your Christianity.
No, my father loved the thought of all of his atheist rich friends burning, like you're saying in this video, in hell forever. He loved that thought, and I was a little squeamish about that. I just as soon have everyone be up in heaven, and that's why I was so adamant about teaching people about Jesus, because I wanted everyone to get to heaven.
Yeah, and that's kind of what bothers me still about like being an atheist in a primarily Christian setting, is that like, does it not bother you that your doctrine says I'm going to burn in hell forever? Like, why aren't you trying to save me and convince me that this is real?
Right. And it's interesting because
that would bother me a lot if I truly believed that that was the core of my system. We have a comment about a Christian friend who worked in a lab and studied science.
So yeah, so in the comments it says, I have a Christian friend, everyone's confused. They work in a lab and study science, but they just don't want to dismantle the moral framework they've grown up with. That is very interesting.
Right. Can't they make more? Can't he just put us somewhere else? Why does it have to be hell? Can't he just be like, okay, you people that don't believe in me, you go over here. And the people who do believe in me, let's come here together. Why is it burning for all eternity? Like,
yeah, in my opinion, that's such a later theology, right? Like,
and Morgan, I would love to hear more about your thoughts on, I don't know, I don't want to attribute it to Wiccanism or what it is that you truly do ascribe to, but I would be interested to hear more about, I mean, being an other, whether that's a less common religion or less common belief system or no belief system, it's just really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation as a couple where it wasn't until we discovered the atheist community that we felt like we could truly start to express ourselves as atheists, because it feels so taboo. Like, people can go to work tomorrow and in the office talk about what happened at church on Sunday, but we can't talk about our atheist podcast because you can't say the word. It's so
taboo.
Right. I don't know.
There was that study that said that if you were to run for presidential office in the United States, like your gender, your orientation is even less impactful than if you were an atheist. That's like the worst possible thing you should run as, like, statistically. Like, if you're an atheist, yeah, no, there's not even a chance.
Not a chance.
And the United States is the one that kind of falls behind all other countries for the most part. Now I know that there's like less populated countries that have their own, like, maybe they're adamantly one versus the other. And I know that there's also countries, not to belittle this, that if you profess that you don't believe in like
It's
Islam,
essentially
for
a death
example,
sentence.
you have a death sentence, which is something to bring
So
up.
at least we don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that.
Right.
I'm not going to get put to death, but I might get ostracized.
Right. Deemed an other. And someone in the chat said earlier, like, not belong, essentially. So, yeah. Interesting. We're just checking
Christianity
the chat.
versus Yahweh.
Ooh, what now? Hold on. Somebody said Christian. What is this? Look at the deities of my religion.
A cult of 13 dudes.
Christians, my faith. I just want to look at the deities of my religion. Were established while yours was a cult.
Look, the deities of my religion.
Oh, interesting. I'm interested if anyone knows about this or has thoughts on this. The thing that's been fascinating to me is what we're learning now about like ancient like pantheism. Hell is a concept, yeah, where it's like Yahweh was like just one of 70 sons of El, and every son of El or God essentially was given a nation, and Yahweh was given the nation of Israel. This is coming from like the Ugaritic texts and the Canaanite pantheon. In fact, it's like the Shaddai gods, where like El Shaddai kind of came from. And that Israel was given Yahweh, right? And so then eventually Israel was like, you know what? They really identified with Yahweh to the point where they said that Yahweh is the only God and that he usurped El to a point in the Hebrew text where he took on Asherah as his consort, which was El's consort, right? The goddess Asherah. So anyways, it's just interesting. Yeah, there's some actually really good chat going on here.
Yeah, there is.
Ooh. Oh, dang. Interesting. Okay, let's see.
And Morgan has a point. We're not necessarily afraid of hell, although I do think that having been Christian or Catholic and deconstructing, that's one of the hardest things to get past is the fear of hell, because like, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? There's this terrible
That would
end
suck,
result.
dude.
It would, yeah.
Getting lit on fire for all eternity
For
would
all
really
eternity,
suck,
right.
dude.
But if you do still believe, does it not bother you when people you say that you care about don't? Like, that's the part that I get hung up on.
Right. Why aren't they trying to save us, essentially? Which is interesting because I always felt like it was my duty to save people. But I get it. Most people, like, I'm a salesperson, so I'm like an A personality that's like a little bit more assertive. Most people are like, I don't want to like make that person feel uncomfortable. So even though they're gonna burn for all eternity, I don't want to like, make them uncomfortable right now. Isn't that weird? Think about that. I don't want to, I'd hate to go door to door because it might make people feel uncomfortable.
I mean,
let's just let them burn for all eternity and not.
Maybe they'll find him right before the end.
Let's not interrupt their dinner.
I mean,
let's just let him burn in hell. Let's just let it burn. Isn't that messed up to think about? Like,
it's a little messed up.
If you're really an actual Christian, why aren't you like shaking your neighbor and being like, dude, you're going to burn in hell forever. And when you die, like melt, you're going to get reshaped just to burn again. But I'd hate to interrupt your pork chops. Actually, yeah, because Christians can eat pork chops.
Both of you made a great point. Also used to argue because there's a part in the Bible that says if they've never heard of me, but we have heard of him, so that only helps some people.
Oh, that's such a great cop out for Christians, because it was Paul, I believe, that said, if you just look to nature, you'll see the truth and you'll see God. So it's like, we're just gonna look to the sky, and if you didn't believe when you looked to the sky, that's on you, buddy. Hope you like extra crispy.
He says, so telling me about him, you're literally risking my eternal life for no reason.
Yeah. Dang.
I've never heard it said
It's
like
sort
that.
of like, la, la, la.
I can hear you.
Yeah, what? Dang it. Yeah.
But yeah, the same reason that God would condemn in mass just for the fact of non-belief.
Yeah, disbelief.
Mhm.
Disbelief. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that this dude 2,000 years ago, you know,
Came back to life and jumped in his Mario Cloud.
jumped in his
The
Mario
Mario Cloud
Cloud.
might end up being
It
our like
has to become an emoji.
symbol. Yeah.
For one, Jesus in a Mario Cloud throwing out the spiky things has to become an emoji. I'm not technically savvy enough to do that, but anyone out there, if you know,
I know a
how,
couple people in this chat are very savvy.
okay, if you know how to make like a Jesus like spiky cloud guy.
Jesus as Mario in the cloud throwing out the spiky shells.
Yeah. Because here's the thing too. If you look at the Old Testament or the entire Bible, the devil's not doing
Who's that
anything
Tuca?
bad, man. It's like God that does all the bad things.
Yeah. Devil really just gets a bad reputation.
Yeah. So I would be interested in for the chat to weigh in, because here's the biggest question that I always get, and I failed in my explanation. I failed because of my lack of like just thinking about it. But like, what the hell? Who the hell was Paul? like,
Wow.
and we all know
That's a deep question.
I know it's a deep question, but like if you think about it, Paul really kind of started this whole like thing. Because if it was up to Peter and James, it would have died in Jerusalem, because the Jews were like, bro, Isaiah 7:14, really? That's not a virgin birth. What? They were like, dude, Rabbi Tovia Singer, I love this guy because he will literally crucify anybody that tries to bring Old Testament prophecy to what the New Testament is saying is real, right? So like Paul though took this Jewish Bible, this Jewish theology, and made it like available to the Gentiles in a way that the Gentiles were like, whoa, man, that's like deep, bro. Yeah, you got like this whole like freaking tradition.
Okay,
and it all
why are they skater boys?
I was being like Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyways, but they're like, dude, like it's like this whole thing. And he sold it to him. But why? What did Paul really see Jesus? That's the question. Because Paul professed to have seen Jesus. He never saw him in real life, flesh and blood, but he saw him on the road to Damascus when he fell off his donkey and bonked his head. What do we think the real story there is? Like, what do you think?
I obviously think he had a hallucination.
I wrestle with this. I wonder if he actually saw something or if he wanted to see something. Like
I mean, something changed his mind from persecution to proclamation.
So you've got this guy who's because
he was anti-Jesus.
Right. He's a leader in the synagogue. So I'm thinking back to my days. I was a board member in the church. And if someone were to come up and say, there's Jackson. Okay. Jackson's telling us that there's this dude, his name's Samus, and Samus is the son of God, and he died and he rose from the dead. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Jackson is a heretic. Stone Jackson. And so then we get together, we stone Jackson. Okay?
Not the good stone.
Not the good kind of stone, but the bad kind. The kind where you die. And then, because no one ever actually died of being good stoned, to my knowledge.
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of. Anyways. So then you get another guy that comes up, or a girl, because back then it was acceptable for women to talk. This was before Timothy. So pre-Timothy, pseudo-Pauline letter. You get Jessie, girl Jessie, comes up and she's like, guys, I heard Samus like actually came back from the dead, and he's like talking about God, but like he's dead and he rose. And then Jessie, heretic, stone that girl. Not in the good way, they stone her. And then Paul at night, I feel like he's like wrestling. He's like thinking about this, like, man, we've been killing these people, and he's been watching. Could you imagine, like, literally, like Stop and imagine watching
A
someone
stoning?
getting stoned.
Mm-mm.
You're literally watching their flesh getting peeled off of their skull with a rock. Like you and they're doing it this way. Give it to me. Like I believe in Samus. And they're getting their faces just ripped off of their skull. I believe in Samus. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to sleep at night as Paul, like, oh, like just traumatized. And you're doing it. You, Paul, as a leader of the board, which I have been at a church, are condoning, like instigating this. I'm the one making this happen. I'm getting Jesse mutilated. I'm getting Jackson mutilated. And they are getting their faces ripped off of their head with a rock because they believe that Samus actually rose from the dead. Now, you're having to wrestle with this time and time again. And then you're on the road to Damascus and you fall off your donkey and you hit your head on a rock. And you maybe see lights because that's what happens when you hit your head really hard. And you're like, you know what? This was a calling. This was a calling. I and Paul, along with Jesus, I believe was deeply entrenched in Jewish apocalypticism, which, if anyone on the chat or watching right now haven't dove into the Dead Sea Scrolls and the community, definitely should. This was a time where Jewish thinking was that we are not going to have another nation. This is a cosmic upheaval. Like we are in an era where the enemies are going to be wiped off the face of the earth. This is like an apocalyptic era. It was just totally different. I think that's where Paul's head was. I don't know.
I mean, it was a pretty big, like 180.
It was a 180. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Coffee. All right.
That might be about enough ranting for you for the day, since we didn't get any brave Christians. We can try again.
We might try again next time.
Probably next week might be tough with spring break. But
we have some spring break time, so it might be a week or so before we go live again. But
yeah, because we can't take it on vacation with us.
Nope. But
we'll see.
Stay tuned. We're coming back. Any Christians that missed their opportunity to join, feel free to like and subscribe. And
if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please turn on notifications. Please give us a little like.
Yeah.
As our friendlies.
Yeah. And we will also do another deconstruction episode. So that means any Christians who have deconstructed that want to tell their story, we will do an episode of that, and you can come up, tell your story. But until next time,
it's nice to talk it out.
Yeah. Until next time, we need a cool sign off thing.
Keep thinking.
Keep thinking. Wow. This is why I'm married.
This is why you keep me around.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Love this girl. All right. Keep thinking,
Bye,
y'all.
guys. Love you.
End stream.